أهلا بكم في هذه الحلقة الجديدة من برنامج جسور. وضيفي الليلة هو الموسيقار وعازف البيانو الفرنسي ستيفان بيله. Stefan, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much.
When we met the other day here in Istanbul, and we had a brief discussion about your music and your involvement with Palestine, you really revived within me a passion for piano, because growing up as a young boy, I used to play piano at school. And up to the age of around 14 or 15, my wish was always to have a piano at home.
That's great, but you have to do it. It's never too late.
We couldn't afford it at the time, of course, but now it's too late now.
No, never. When you have passion, it's possible.
Yes. Of course, we're having this discussion tonight, not just because of the music, although the music is important, but also because of the connection of your music or your activity to Palestine. But before we talk about this, I'd like to learn a little bit more about your music story. How did you become a pianist? How did you join this sort of lifestyle? Because it becomes a lifestyle, doesn't it?
Yes, it's like that because it's a passion. It's a very good question. It's not easy to answer because my family, nobody was a musician in my family. No piano, nothing. But I remember I was 6 years old and I said to my parents that I wanted to be a pianist. I did not say I want a piano or I want to play piano. I want to be a pianist, but I don't know why exactly. Perhaps
maybe you saw someone play piano or something?
No, I don't remember. Perhaps something like that. But I felt something. I said I want to be a pianist. I want composing, playing. I want to be a pianist. So of course they were very surprised. But they found a little piano. They realized that it was serious and that I really was in love with music and that I have a gift for that. So, I was born in France, in Paris. So I went to the conservatoire and I had all my first prizes and so on. And after that, I went to New York because Vladimir Horowitz, who was one of the greatest pianists of all times, and Byron Janis, who was his sole pupil, listened to my works. My first concert, I was 15, and they invited me to New York, and I gave my first important concerts in New York in 1986. I stayed 2 years, and after that I returned to France, and I recorded 50 CDs, Mozart, Beethoven, Rachmaninoff, Mussorgsky, Liszt, Chopin, Satie. And I composed 300 works for piano, chamber music, orchestra, which are published by great publishers in Europe, and also Ottoman rhapsodies. Because I was in love with this music, and I used
what attracted you to the Ottoman music?
First time I was in Istanbul, it was in 1992, so it was just for a concert. Of course, I didn't know anybody here. I play, I go, but after the concert, the organizer invited me to a restaurant, and for the first time I could listen to ney, kanun, and these instruments, and I felt in love with this music. So at this time I did not speak Turkish, so I asked to the musicians if I could find scores about this music, who was the composer. They told me we don't read music, it's something from our parents, we learn like that. And I for the first time...
It's something they inherit.
Yes, absolutely. So, this Sufi movements and so on. So I really felt in love with this music. And when I returned to France, I decided to write Ottoman fantasies for piano and for orchestra from these old melodies of the Ottoman sultans, or Dede Effendi, who was one of the greatest composer in the Ottoman Empire.
Now, you were born in 1969.
Yeah.
By the mid-80s, around the age of 15, you composed or you recorded your first...
I recorded my first CDs. I gave a lot of concerts, and few years after that,
you started composing your own music.
Yes.
Is that normal within the music world? I mean, or is it?
No, it's not classical.
Because I mean, it's quite young. I mean, you started at the age of 6, and by the age of 15, say to 18, you are already a recognized musician.
Yes, I gave my first important concerts at 15, and I recorded my first CD for Philips at 16. So I recorded a lot of France Liszt. And after that, you know, I gave a lot of concerts, 5, 6 years, and I stopped few months to, I wanted to compose, I wanted composing a sonata and so on, and I started composing more and more. And my works were accepted by the great publishers, and all the pianists played that in France, in New York, in the conservatoires, or in international competitions. And now I have 350 works which are published.
You did this while going to school, or was what you...
Yes, but after that, when yes, I always did both. But after I never went to the university. After I had what we call the bac, you know, in France.
Baccalaureate.
Okay. Yes. After that, I started playing everywhere. So, but I stayed 2 years in New York. It's interesting because, you know, in France it's like that. I am French, but as I did things in New York, they recognized me because I started abroad. You know, if you
remained in France, you probably would not have been recognized.
I am not sure. Yes.
Yeah, that's the thing about America. America attracts musicians, sports people, scientists, people who are not usually recognized in their own countries. America is the land of dreams.
Yes. Well, I'm not sure for everything, but about that you are right.
Well, sure. Probably now
Trump. The problem in Europe,
Trump is killing the dreams now.
I think too, but in every case. And after that, I accepted to be a professor in the École Normale de Paris, 10 years, and I had very, very good pupils who won international piano competitions. So for me, it's the same. I give a concert, I do compose something, or I teach. It's the same universe, so I needed all the stuff.
But despite all these achievements, you couldn't remain in France.
That's another story, yes, because you know that unhappily in the musical world, 99% of the organizations are very close to Israel, and when you try to do something as a human being for Palestinians, they immediately start with boycott, and when you do continue, it's worse than boycott. So yes, I left France because it was just not possible to stay in France. You know, I composed works for Yasser Arafat 25 years ago, but until Chirac, you know, Chirac was a close friend. He was really, I loved him, but after Chirac,
life changed.
Everything changed, and no, you cannot criticize Netanyahu in France. In all the medias, you cannot say Palestine.
Okay, before that, tell me exactly how did you become acquainted with the Palestinian issue? When was the connection?
The first thing, you know, I had a Palestinian friend, and I knew what was going on, and I had friends who told me what was going on in Gaza and so on, and I was in touch with Palestinians, and a few of them died, of course, after that. So I remember they contacted me to say, we would like to have a conservatoire in Gaza. So we tried to do things.
When was that exactly? When around when?
15 years ago, at least. And you know, you had very, very few artists who accepted to do it because they want to live. Of course, they don't want to boycott, and they want to preserve. They want all the media talk very well about them. So the first time that in a TV show in France, I just said few words against what was going on. It was Sharon, and I said just few words.
On French TV? On French
TV?
TV?
I said it's just not acceptable. As human beings, I mean, we cannot tolerate that. It's not possible. One day after that, they started telling that I was an anti-Semite, that I was a Nazi, always the same method when you are trying to do something well. Of course, I am not a racist or an anti-Semite, but always the same thing. They did that to other personalities in France, to Dieudonné, who is a famous actor, and he tried to do something, to Alain Soral, to Alice Chablos, but she's not in France. So it's always the same method. When you are trying to do something for Palestinian people, you can be sure that you will find medias who will try to make a bad promotion against you.
This was probably during the second Intifada, right? When Sharon was still around.
Exactly. So after that, you have in France a lot of Zionist associations who open trials against you. All the time, it's just a nightmare. So now everybody knows, and most of people who try to do something for Palestinians went in another country. You cannot stay. You cannot. It's just not possible.
And you decided then to come to Turkey?
Yes. In every case, I wanted to come to Turkey since a long time, but I thought that I will come 3, 4, 5 months in a year. But of course, after all these things, I decided to come completely. So I bought a place here, and I am very happy in Istanbul, and I am proud to be in a country that try something for them. I mean, the president of Turkey is the only one who is trying to do something for them and who talks. So I am proud of him, and I am ashamed about France. But it's not France. I mean, it's people who drive the country. But yes, of course, I love Istanbul. I always wanted to come to Istanbul. I gave a lot of concerts here since a very long time. I have a lot of friends, so it was natural I chose Istanbul.
And I'm really impressed. I heard you speak Turkish. You speak Turkish well.
Yeah. My Turkish is better than my English. No.
Did you learn it here, or you learned it before?
I started learning Turkish by myself before, but just with a book. You have this assimil. You have a lesson every day, and I started like that. And of course, when I came, I worked harder, and no, it's okay.
I saw a clip in which Erdogan mentions you, but of course it was in Turkish, so I couldn't understand. What was he saying?
I said that I was a model for the artist because I was not afraid of talking about what was going on. And that I always said that most of the artists had no courage at all. And I think when we have a gift as an artist, it's a gift from God. So if we have this gift, we have to try to use it for something, for. And most of the artists refuse because they just want to, to take the money and to, no problem. But I tried to move them a little bit. So,
although
yes,
recently,
I have very big respect for President Erdogan because it's one of the reasons I came to Turkey, because it's a country who is trying to do something for them and who talks. Everybody knows what is going on. They kill people, a child and a woman in the street. Everybody knows. Nobody dares to say a word. I mean, it's a shame. So I am proud to be in a country who is trying something.
Recently, we heard that some Israeli musicians are beginning to take a stand on the Palestinian issue. Are you aware of any such Israeli politicians who are critical of Israel because of its treatment of the Palestinians?
I have a friend, yes, an anti-Zionist Jew, Gilad Atzmon, who is a good musician for jazz. He plays jazz. And since he talked about that, he cannot play in France, he cannot play, they cancel all
they
his
close
concerts.
the door.
It's always the same. For this reason, I always say to the artists, we have to do that together. If we all do that, they will stop. But they are cowards, they don't want. But Gilad did that. He talked about the subject, and of course, no, if you want to listen to him, but he often comes to Turkey, and I think more and more people who want to be free and want to talk about these subjects will come to Turkey, because we have not democracy anymore in France, but it's something very few people know. It's just unbelievable. You cannot speak at all.
It's a pity. I mean,
yes, that's
the mother of democracies.
Yes.
And finished. People cannot express themselves freely when it comes to Palestine.
Yeah.
Now, how many times have you visited Palestine since you started paying attention to the cause?
Only one time, because I did that from France, from the States, and so on. So I went one time, and I met one time Yasser Arafat with Jacques Chirac, and I gave him this work. I composed it for them, and they played it a lot. And
that was composed especially for Palestine?
Yes, of course, absolutely. So I play that everywhere in all my concerts, for a start or at the end, but always. So of course, you can imagine. But we try to do something. But you know, when you had Chirac, of course, you had these Zionist associations who hated that, but they could not do something. We could speak, we could do it, okay. After Chirac, it was finished because they changed the laws, and now you have ultra-Zionist associations who open trials. They make a call, and everybody says yes. So you cannot do anything now. It's too late, and it's for this reason we were talking about Alison Chabloz, who is a musician too. She lives in London, I guess. She wanted to come to France. They forbid, forbid her for 40 years because she's talking for Palestinian and she's anti-Zionist. It's like that. We have people who are in jail only because they say one word about Palestine or against Netanyahu or against Zionism. And no, Macron did something that even Israel did not do. He assimilated anti-Zionism and anti-Semitism. So the law is like that. If you say you are not with Zionists, they can put you to jail because you are supposed to be anti-Semitic. So, I mean, and when you see that you have anti-Zionist Jews, I mean, it's a nonsense, of course, but it's not a problem. It's just a way they found to avoid us to say something. And the only man who is trying to do something is President Erdogan. So.
You know, a few weeks ago at the Labour Party conference in Brighton, in England, I met a British artist. I think she was an actress at one time.
Yeah.
And now she is a scenarist of some sort, who is Jewish, but anti-Zionist.
Yeah.
And because she was critical of Israel, her membership in the Labour Party was suspended.
Yes, of course.
There were several of them.
I know. We have the same problem. We have a lot of friends, Jewish friends, who think like we think. The Zionist says to them, you are an anti-Semite, an anti-Semite Jew. I mean, it's just they know that they are wrong, so they use everything. And of course, when you start talking about that, of course, the first thing is a boycott, and after that, in the medias, they are trying to give false informations about you. I have a friend, Jacob Cohen, who is an anti-Zionist in France. He cannot talk to. Nobody can. No, it's
that's the Moroccan, right?
Yeah, you know him.
I interviewed him for my program.
Yes, he's a very good friend. I talked to him yesterday.
He was beaten.
Yes, he was beaten by the LDJ, Ligue de Défense Juive.
Yes.
It's an association who wanted to kill me and to kill my mother. It's not a joke. In France. And they share on Twitter messages like, we will kill Stéphane Blay in France or in Turkey or I don't know where, and his family and so on. And they do that openly. They can, no problem.
That's incitement to violence.
Yes, but they can. And they are still here. I mean, this association is forbidden even in America and in Israel. But in France, they do absolutely what they want, and it's worse because they meet with all the staff of the government. So, I mean, we are in
What is the source of their empowerment? Why are they so powerful in France?
Because we let the country... we let them do, I mean, and it's too late. They changed all the rules, all the laws, and they do absolutely what they want. And now people realize, but it's too late. We cannot talk and we cannot do something for Palestinians. If you try to give a concert for Palestinians now in Paris, or they will forbid it and they will say that it's terrorism or something. They will find something, they will forget, they will forbid the concert. And these associations like the Ligue de Défense Juive will call to try to put a bomb or something. They do absolutely what they want. Everybody knows we want them to go or to, no jail, nothing. They can say, I will kill you, no problem. Everybody knows.
I saw footage, even my friends in Naturi Karta, some of their rabbis I also interviewed in my show, showed me footage of members of this organization attacking them in the streets.
Yes, of course.
Coming on motorcycles with helmets,
of course,
and attacking them.
Yes, and a few years ago they killed a Palestinian in the street. They never went to jail. We know them, the name, the address, everything. Everybody knows it's not hidden, but they are protected. I mean, it's a shame. It's something. Even in the United States, you have not something like that. They are forbidden in the United States. But they can allow themselves to send messages on Twitter or Facebook telling they will kill you and your family. They do absolutely what they want because they are in France. And I mean, it's just unbelievable. But now everybody knows, but it's too late. So
it's a big shame.
Yes, it's a big shame.
Okay, let's take a break and then we will resume the discussion. نأخذ فاصلا قصير ثم نتابع الحوار فلا تذهبوا بعيدا. أهلا بكم مجددا في هذه الحلقة من جسور وضيفي فيها الموسيقار الفرنسي ستيفان بلي. Stéphane, we were talking just before the break about the sort of intimidation people like you, artists, thinkers, people who criticize Zionism as an ideology or Israel as a state that oppresses the Palestinians, the sort of intimidation you are subjected to, an intimidation that forced you to leave your own country and come and live here in Turkey. Now, what can artists, musicians and other artists do if they sympathize with the Palestinian cause, or if they actually call for justice for the Palestinians, but seem to face such hardship? What can they do together? I mean,
it's not so difficult. I think if when we call them, if all the artists said the same thing, it will stop.
Do you communicate with each other?
I won't say who and so on, but we tried to explain to a lot of artists that they had to come with us and just say something. They have not to say something against Israel, but they just can say, look, Palestinians are dying. I mean, no, they don't want because they know that they will leave a boycott. But if all the artists talk together, you can be sure that the boycott, it's not possible. It's not possible to do that to everybody. They can do that because we are very few. We dare to do that, but the other artists don't want. So you have a few artists who are Zionists, and you have artists who just don't know and don't want to know and don't want to have any problem. If you had 2,000 artists at the same time for the Palestinians, you can be sure that even the Zionist mafia could not do something. It's too important, but you know.
It's difficult.
Very few. You have Roger Waters because he's old and no, he can talk freely and so on. But we need 1,000 people like him, and most of the artists don't want to do that because our producers, or you know, they work with them all the time, so they don't want to take any risk. But I mean,
do I understand from this that the artists who are willing to express sympathy with the Palestinians are very few because of this?
Yes.
There are not many of them?
Yes, there are very few, of course. In private, I know a lot of artists who tell me, you know, we drink a tea, and they tell me, my God, what are they doing? It's a shame song. But they will never accept to say that in front of a camera. That's all. The problem is that. So, I don't know, perhaps, I think when we are artists, we have a big responsibility. We have something to do, not only playing piano or music or singing something, but we have to try to do something for people. And they don't want because they have a very cozy life and they don't want to have a problem. They don't do it. Perhaps it will change, but I don't think so, because since 20 years we saw, you know, we are very, very, very few.
Well, I guess someone needs to make the initiative, because I've seen some initiatives in, like, for instance, in Britain, there are rabbis for justice, there are Jewish voices.
Yeah, yes, of course.
There are people who come together because they feel if they remain as individuals, they will be intimidated and they will be weak. So they try and come together. Probably artists need to do something similar.
We tried. We do things like that, for example, with my friend Alain Soral in what we call Égalité et Réconciliation, with Gilad Atzmon, with Jacob Cohen, and so on, and with others. But, for example, you have anti-Zionist, Jewish anti-Zionist groups in France, but nobody talks about that, and of course the medias don't want to show them.
As if they don't exist.
Yes, because it's not good for them, because the only thing they can do is to insult us, telling that we are anti-Semite. Of course we are not, but it's the only thing they have. So it's more difficult to them to say to Jewish people that they are anti-Semitic, I don't know what. So they never show these groups. In the United States, it's better. I mean, they can speak. You see them a little bit, but in France, never. Never. It's completely forbidden. You have not, you know, it's always the same thing. They just want to avoid people talking, and they try to find a solution. They don't want to show that a lot of Jewish people don't accept that, so they don't want them to speak. So,
now you've been here in Turkey for 2 years.
Yeah.
What do you do?
I do compose a lot. I have a new symphony. I have a new record in 1 month. I give concerts for Palestinians, for many things in Sivas, in Kilis, and I feel
within Turkey itself.
In Turkey, because in Turkey you can give a concert for Palestinians. There's no problem. So I give concerts. I do compose, and I share my works with my Turkish friends, and of course I go abroad in Hong Kong, but I am here most of the time.
I can see that this recent edition of a Turkish magazine has a feature on you.
Yeah, this is at home.
It's quite a long feature.
Yeah.
What is it about? Is it about your life, your activities, your music?
It's about, yes, it's about the question you ask, what I'm doing exactly since 2 years, and this how it's possible to live as an artist who is recognized in, but with this problem of Zionism and so on. So I explain what they are doing in Europe and especially in France, and the reasons I chose Turkey and what I am doing. I came to share my art with people that I do respect, people who are trying to fight for something which is normal. I mean, when you see what is going on, I am ashamed to see that nobody talks about that. Macron in Europe, nobody wants to talk about that. I mean,
apart from Turkey, have you been to other places in the Muslim world?
Yes, to Egypt, to Yemen, to a lot of places, of course. I went to Yemen 20 years ago. It was Chirac who asked me to, he wanted to share something about culture with Yemen. I went to Sana'a. I stayed 3 weeks. I love it. I have still friends in Sana'a.
Oh, Yemen now is in a very bad shape.
Yeah, I know. Always the same thing we know. Yes, I know. I often talk to them. It's horrible. So,
you were quite close to Chirac.
yes, he liked me very much, and we often met. And I was very sad a few days ago because he died, but he was sick since 2 or 3 years.
So your visits to Egypt and to Yemen were quite a long time ago, but nothing recent.
No, nothing recent. After Chirac, in every case, it's not Sarkozy or Macron who will try to develop something between France and Yemen.
But that was at quite a high political level. What about civil society level? You don't get invitations from civil society institutions, from art institutions, from musicians?
When you have invitations, you go or you don't go. But of course, now, when I am invited, it's of course a festival or an organizer who invites me. I often go to Japan because I have a lot of pupils in Japan, and I often play in Japan, in Switzerland, but in France now. 20 years ago, I played in all the biggest places, but no, it's different. We know that, but it's not important. I mean, I'm very happy when I give a concert in Turkey or in Japan or in Hong Kong. But you have the management in the classical music is at 99% organized by Zionists. So of course
that much, 99%.
Yeah. As problem is in classical music, it's you have a lot of.
Why? What is the reason for this?
I don't know, but in every case it's like that. Sponsors and so on. So always the societies. It can be Danone or Coca-Cola or I don't know what, but you have always this political pressure. And I was the first classical musician to do that. So they fear me because they say, oh my God, if the other classical musicians do the same. So I am still invited in a lot of places, but not by these people, not by these managers. In France, I had a manager who found a lot of concerts, but of course he cannot continue. And you have these groups. In every case, he is a Zionist or not, but in front of him he will find this Ligue de Défense Juive and all these aggressive associations who will never let them do. So it's a problem. So it turns. So I always said to the artists that we have to create another system in order to be together and not let them, all the organization. It's not normal. We have to create our own festivals in classical music, jazz, rock, everything. I mean, we have to do something together, but it's it's not so easy, and you know, people
especially now,
sometimes
you know,
speak that-
after the counter-revolution that crashed the Arab Spring, Arab authorities, like in Saudi Arabia and the United Arab Emirates, are actually increasingly normalizing relations with Israel rather than helping the Palestinians. And this is having a very negative impact on the freedom of artists, of musicians. Otherwise, someone like you should now be playing in Arab capitals here and there, be recognized for what you are doing for Palestine. But unfortunately, the wind, at least at the moment, is blowing in the wrong direction.
Of course. We know. I am not surprised at all. Saudi Arabia, they always did the same, so it's not new. It's more understandable, but it's not new. You know, I don't know. I don't know. It's just a shame.
But in your, from your position here in Turkey, don't you have an opportunity to try and link up with some Arab musicians who are against normalization with Israel, who are in favor of BDS, or such artists don't exist?
Yes, well, you have few ones, but very, very few. Very few. But here, yes, we are trying to do our best, and of course, you know that in France, no, it's forbidden. We did that. BDS, and no, it's
officially,
forbidden.
BDS is officially forbidden in France?
Yes. No, you cannot do it.
Because they're trying to forbid it in America,
it's
but
like
they
a
haven't
crime.
succeeded.
Yes, if you do that, it's against Israel. So it's like terrorism. I mean, it's madness, but they did it. So you cannot do that. No, I say it's just unbelievable. So every day it's worse. But of course, in Turkey, you do it. You can do it. We have plans to give concerts with 5 or 6 musicians. I don't give the names now because perhaps they don't want. But who said, okay, we will do that in Turkey and abroad, perhaps in St. Petersburg. So we are trying to organize ourselves as we can. But of course, the official system now is not for us. We have to create our own if we want to continue to do that. So we do it. We have faith, but it's not easy, and we are not numerous. Very, very few artists who accept.
How is the classical musicians' environment here in Turkey when it comes to Palestine?
Nobody talks.
They don't talk?
No.
Even here in Turkey?
No. When I gave a concert for Palestinians last year in Turkey, everywhere, a magazine sent a lettre ouverte, an open letter to the Turkish pianist, telling why don't you do the same with him and so on. No answer. Of course, because you have a lot of pianists, a lot of musicians who work with them. That's all.
Work with
sometimes
who?
with the Zionists.
Really?
Completely. Of course. So I cannot tell more, but yes. Clearly. So, and it's not only the question of Zionism. They have not to say we are anti-Zionist. Just say something for Palestinians. Just make it.
Maybe they fear that the door will be closed.
Yes,
They cannot,
it can be that, and sometimes it can be worse. When you take your money from these people to talk badly about your own country or these kind of things, it's also
so
possible.
we go back to the problem of sponsorship again.
Yes. So, what can I say? But in Arabic or Muslim musicians, you have few one who want to do something, but they don't know how to do, or trying to do something together. No, I hope we can do it, but really we are very few.
And these concerts which you organize for Palestine, who helps you with that? I mean, who does the organization?
For example, in Turkey, it was in Sivas or in Kilis, it was the rector of the university that I love very much, was really somebody very well, but in Turkey it's possible. Not everywhere, but if you go to Sivas, you go to Kilis, Ordu, really they want to do something and they organize that with pleasure. For this reason, I am very, I love this country because they do something. But of course, you have artists who will never accept because they fear or because they work with them. That's like that. But you have wonderful universities in Turkey, and they have no problem to organize this kind of things. Perhaps it's much more difficult in Istanbul. It depends on the universities, but I don't know if you know Kilis. It's a wonderful place. Kilis, Ordu, Sivas. They do that, and I did a lot of things with them. So no, we are trying to do. I have a CD which will be released in a few weeks for the Palestinians, and with my Ottoman fantasy for piano and orchestra, and I hope we can do something.
That was,
and after that, I would like to do something with all the Turkish artists who accept to speak or to make a jest or something for Palestinians. But this CD will be released in 4 weeks, something like that. We will see. Perhaps we will find more artists who will say, okay, perhaps we can do something. I hope. We are trying. We'll see.
Maybe we need to invest in younger musicians. Create a new generation of more courageous musicians who are willing to use their music for good causes.
Yes, I hope. I hope. So we are trying. This CD will be released, and after that, a project with other Turkish artists with Turkish classical instruments. We will see. We are trying.
So you think at least you have some opportunities here?
Yes, of course. If you can find opportunities to talk freely about that, it's in Turkey. That's a fact. Yes. For this reason, I am proud to be here. So, I was ashamed to stay in France. I am not guilty. I am French, but I mean, I am ashamed when I see what is going on with presidents who never say a word about Palestinians, and worst, they are very close to Netanyahu, and they never have a word against this politics. So we know that it's too late. But the French people know that. They are ashamed too. But in every case, in the political world in France, left, right, far right, no difference. They all are Zionists. If they are not, you can take Macron or Marine Le Pen or who you want. They are all Zionists. They all are with Israel, because if they are not, they cannot have an opportunity to go to the medias and to find money for the elections. They control absolutely the system.
The strange thing is that these politicians, whether they are left or right, are actually contradicting the general will of the population.
Completely.
Because according to polls conducted over the past few years, a majority of Europeans consider Israel to be the greatest threat to the world.
Yes.
So actually, the majority of Europeans are not sympathetic toward Israel as ordinary people.
Of course.
And politicians don't express this sort of situation.
Of course. And Europeans started to understand that they are in a dictature, and they understood. For everything, I mean, 14 years ago, for example, we had a referendum made by Jacques Chirac. It was for, do you want to stay in the Maastricht Treaty? French people said, no, we don't want to stay, we want to go out. I mean, it's 65%. A few months after that, Sarkozy
came to power,
became president, and he said, okay, they want, but no, we won't do that. it's just unbelievable, and it's for everything. So you have a lot of French people or European who are trying to do something for Palestinians. They cannot, and now the other ones are trying to criminalize that. If you talk for Palestinians, you are a terrorist, or I don't know what. So, no, I think Europe is going in a very, very bad way, and all the politicians are paid by the same ones to say the same thing. It's just a question of color, but from the communists to the far right, they all are.
It's really astonishing that this far right phenomenon, which is usually anti-Jewish, is pro-Zionist. They hate the Jews, but they defend the Zionists.
It's a very, it's a horrific plan they have since a long time. You know, they accepted the immigration, but really very, very, you know, in France. And after that, the same people will say, oh, it's too much, and it's because of Muslims and so on. So the same people who 20 years ago wanted a million more people from everywhere, no, the same people who were left became far right, and says that, that Europe has not to accept Muslims. So it's what they call chutzpah, I think, you know. They are joking, but it's very dangerous. In every case, in all Europe, no, far right is Zionist, ultra-Zionist. Ultra-Zionist, bu Wilders, bu Marine Le Pen. I know very well Marine Le Pen's father, Jean-Marie Le Pen, is not like her. He was against too much immigration, but he had absolutely nothing against Muslims, and Marine Le Pen did exactly the opposite. And no, she talks very hard against Muslims because she needs money for the campaign. It's exactly the same than Wilders. You saw what he's doing. So in all the Europe, far right is Zionist. Yeah, but it's dangerous because now people are bored with left and this gay marriage and so on. You can buy a child and say, we are here, I mean, we cannot. They know the psychology and they know that we are bored with what we call left. So they think that people will choose far right. So they are into the far right, and nobody understands. So
yeah, well, you heard the recent scandal that Marine Le Pen was funded by the United Arab Emirates.
Yes, of course. But I already knew that because I know her since 20 years. I know his father was a good friend, but her, no, I just.
Oh, you knew him personally, her father?
Yes, of course. We are close friends with Jean-Marie Le Pen. And I can tell you that he talks about Marine Le Pen worse than me, even.
She threw him out of the party.
Yes, because it was a sacrifice that the Zionists wanted from her to kill the father. You know, it's in their psychology, but it's not enough. And I think she won't win.
Let's hope something happens and change things to a more positive situation. Well, it's been a pleasure, ستيفان, having you on the show. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for your invitation.
Thank you. وشكرا لكم على المتابعة والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.